real-time chat.
Okay, so we use action cable for the WebSocket, right? And what happens is now you have the HTTP server and the WebSocket server still using the same Rails code. And when you did the lab, you realized that when you deploy to Heroku, right, you need a little bit of an extra database to keep track of the messages. And what's interesting is if you don't have your own Redis database and if you use mine, then when a message is sent, then you guys receive those messages. But those messages don't get saved to the PostgreSQL database. So this lab, I hope you all finish it. And of course, the tricky part here is don't put the slash here. Most of you actually got it working on Heroku, right? The IP address is not very exciting because we all have the same IP address. But that's just a quick and dirty way to say username. If you put this on the internet, it will be interesting. Of course, when you implement your own project, you probably want to use username, and IP. So today's lecture, let's start from that, and I'll recap and talk about all the other things that are non-MVC. Lecture notes is here, which is pretty much what I will use and I'll update. But just pay attention to the board, okay? Just pay attention to the screen, and we'll go from there. All right. So where were we last time? Let me see where were we. My apologies. I will let me open our project. Nope, don't display tip. What is the Lab 4 project called?
One room.
Oh, one room, right?
Yeah.
One room. I don't know, where is one room?
There's a slash, like, yeah.
Okay, it's here. Week 4, one room. Okay. Week 4, one room. Wait. CD Ruby week 4.
And I will turn up the light.
Okay, can you please help the light? Thank you very much. All right. So what happens? Last time we did this, right? Create the app. You can send the messages. You set up the messages channel. You do Redis. Here you add the Redis URL, and then you allow the WebSocket and the HTTP server to talk to each other. Well, I added some more. I added Bootstrap and the ability to create and delete chat messages. All right. So let's see. Let's boot up this server and see what it can do. Just to recap. Oops, not that. Local. So what happened is if we have 2 server or 3 for that matter, you say WebSocket. Now notice this is it looks like this. Is it IP6? Well, it's limited to this because it's trapped in it's boxed, right, and protected. When you run, if you want this to be accessed externally with the full IP address and IP4, then this is now, if you type something, it will give you the full address. What's also interesting is this is the internal IP, right? There's also an external IP. This one, I'm not sure why I have 2 addresses, but let's say if you go to this local one on your computer, right? Now if I go here, port 3000, which one is the right one?
Yeah, I think the below.
That's the external one. This one should not work. It's the well, we'll see. So if I bind it, okay. I'm not sure why it doesn't work. Huh? Oh, that's right. Okay, it's still blocked. Oh, interesting. In the past, this is how I would just cheat, you know, bind it to this port. I'm not sure why it's still blocked. Puma may behave differently, so let's say if I bind it to port 4000 TCP here, I should be able to access. But yeah, it's blocked. So it's all right. I'll find out why. Okay. So what we didn't discuss is how you do this. Let's run the Rails server the normal way. I was hoping that, you know, I just open it up and you guys can all go to that IP address and we can chat. That's normally what happened. But let's say here you can remove, and we discussed swiftly how that's done. I made it pretty, and let's just look at the code. When you click on messages here, right? Send a delete to messages controller, and then it destroy, and then it discuss what it's broadcast. So I decided to do something like this. This action is I append this data, and here I just call remove. So ask me if this one doesn't make sense. Okay, in messages down here, when you send broadcast append to all the clients, we just append it to messages here, see? But when you delete, I just get this ID and I call remove, for example. Okay, this is not the best way. Okay, this is just a quick and dirty way, and I'll show you some better ways now. All right, who here can think of a few problems we have with this system? Does anyone see any problem? First, is it clear what it's trying to do? Is it clear? That's okay if it's not clear. Okay, which part is not clear?
Delete.
Delete?
Yeah.
So when you click delete, right? When you click delete, I'm going to take this note. 1 second. All right. I'll type it up. So when you delete, here, okay. What happens when we delete? So let's say we have a client, 3 browsers, A, B, C, opening, right, looking at localhost 3000, okay? So when A clicks delete, what happened?
Only BC.
This submit here, right? I'll show you message here. Link to this. Here's this the cross, and then send a message. Okay, so it sent us HTTP request, right? Submit a delete. It's a post, right? It's a delete to messages like 1, 2, 3. So send. So let's say send submit to our HTTP server. What happened next? HTTP server. Let's look at the controller code. First, it goes to the router and then the controller. Controller find the message, delete it, and broadcast. HTTP server remove message and ask WebSocket server, right? HTTP server ask WebSocket server to broadcast to ABC. Is that right? When HTTP server is done, what happens? A receives from HTTP server, right? Saying redirect to, let's look at this code, redirect to messages path. Of course, you can do AJAX, the same, right? So basically, the request response cycle is complete. So that's request response cycle is complete. And also B and C, browser, receive, WebSocket, what? Message, run JavaScript to update the view. Is it clear? Is it clear what message is doing? What's that deleting is doing? So how is create done? So let's say A, same thing. Enter a message and right click submit. HTTP server, right, receives a post request, right? HTTP server creates a new message. Let's look at this guy here. And HTTP server asks WebSocket to broadcast the message. Broadcast what? An append action message, right? To ABC, right? To clients, which is also browsers. And HTTP cycle complete. So redirect here. So A, HTTP server responds to ABC receive WS message update via JavaScript, right? Which is just, you know, it's the JavaScript WebSocket API. So you already have this app dot, right? App dot messages dot, it's a function that get triggered. Okay, so what's going on here? Receive, right? Callback is called, right? Basically, here I'm just saying this is callback is triggered. All right, everyone understand this? Yes? So what's wrong with this? Yeah? Does it seem complicated? So we're talking about MVC, right? So what is MVC, guys? MVC is very simple. You have model view controller. So when, you know, the controller, right, loads data using model by connecting to model, and then view present data, right, prepared by controller. So there's a bit of it. MVC makes a lot of sense for a regular HTTP server. Why? You go to the route, that's the right, and then go to a controller, and then go to a bit of model here, and then go to view, right? So in some more complicated structure, you have, you know, MVVM, where this is the view model, or MVC with presenter, and all of this stuff. But what we're having here is like two servers, not just one. So what I am saying here is, why do we have, when we introduce this WebSocket, things become really complicated. Because when we learn action cable, what are the new words we had to learn? Action cable. Do you know what I call a channel? So we have something called a messages channel. And through this channel, right, messages channel is between your client connect to the server. But here it's client in one request, just sort of, right? A server can. Do you think it's quite similar to messages controller? Messages controller is client, go to server, go back to client. This is called a request and this is called a response. Yeah, over here is an always on socket. Does it make sense? Okay, so let's implement this without messages controller at all. What I'm trying to say is, if we think of action cables, sort of channel, channel is similar to controller. Between the client, you have the JavaScript talk to the channel. It's similar to the view, talk to the controller. Let's see if that's possible. First, did we understand this code, why it updates? It's clear now, right? This is how you submit the form. You can make this more responsive by making an AJAX request here. It just update A, doesn't matter. Messages index here, I have the form, same. In this case, I use remote true. It just update by JavaScript. Let's just skip controller totally and then still make it work. How do we do that? I'm going to delete everything in this controller, create, destroy everything, right? Let's skip controller. Okay, and I still need this, right? It's like a single page application. So what happens? I go here and load. It's still here, but if I do something here, hello, press and enter, nothing happened, right? If you view this, it just say, hey, there's no create. Who here has an idea how do we improve? So now create message becomes user enters message and presses submit. Where does it go? No more HTTPS server, only WebSocket server. So JavaScript send WebSocket message to WebSocket server. Okay? And WebSocket server receives message, create message in DB because it also has access to Rails database, and broadcast to clients. Done. User here, all ABC receive the same message. So there's no more extra logic, duplicate logic, where A has to wait, right? You just send a message and you don't have to worry. Okay? So it's simpler, right? Now then, how can we do that? I go to this thing, and the only thing I really care about is this line. It's just a text field. Cool. So text field tag content, yeah, maybe required. So now let's say placeholder, enter, type something, right? Type something. I'll say, okay, so let's refresh. Alright, who know how to fix this? When you don't have f.text field, you have to pass in a value, and of course this value is nil. So when you use tag, it's like that. Oh, okay, it looks nice. Type something, right? Something here. Let's add a dot here. Okay. When we type something and press enter, we want to do something about it, right? Who knows how to do that with JavaScript? Input content, you see that? So I go into JavaScript. So where do I put the JavaScript code?
CoffeeScript.
You can put it here, right? JavaScript, and then, no, it's not JavaScript, it's called script tag. And in here you say, if, just click here and there, but don't do that, right? Sometimes if you're really lazy, you can, no one blame you. But because you're good already, let's go to messages. They create a messages.javascript file for me, right? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to call something, let's say, input, this guy, content, Okay, let's make it bigger. Input content. Let's say what method, what function do we want? Key up. So let's say, and so this is coffee, okay? So if JavaScript you do something like that, right? But CoffeeScript I just, I can pass in, that's a function, take an event, and then I'll just say key up. No need for parentheses, it reads like Ruby. And I just type something, let's see if it works. Oh, it doesn't work. Who know how to fix it? Huh? Yes. So, because this, one way for you to know is you actually type here, right? Messages dot, is run, right? And then if you run this, it's not run, right? Oh, it is. Why? Why? I showed you before. It's run because it's already called here, but it's not working because this is loaded in the head. So how do we do it? Turbo links, that's right. So I am going to call this something called setup. This is because I already know, this is my best practice. You feel free to do something different. And I called something called setup.coffee. So document ready, but here is document on, turbo links load, right? And you take a function. Here you can just pass in everything you want. Okay, so in this case, I call it something called like messages JavaScript. It's just an object. And I call setup or init or anything you want to call. Okay? So this is just a convention. You feel free to do something else you want. Now, because I did something like that up there, so I have a messages JS. It's just an object. It's a hash, right, in Ruby. So this is the same as in JavaScript. You just do A, B, C, D, So this is a function. If you write JavaScript, it looks like that. Okay? Is it clear? Then you can call messages.init. But because I use CoffeeScript, I can get rid of all the sign, and then this is the same, except this is init. And it's a function. Take no argument. Alright, that's lambda sign. And when you call messages.init, okay? That's still clear, right? But this will still cause an error. Who knows why? In CoffeeScript, it's safe. This is a local variable by default, so you need to do something like that. Okay? So now I load it up, and you see it set up the channel first, messages run, and you can always test this. Messages.js. It's an object. In it, you have one guy, it's a function, right? It's a function, and you call this. What it does is it set up the key up event. So let's see if it works. I start typing. Hey, key up, that's cool. So what exactly do I need? I just need to key down, right? So enter key then, key down. And then I need to check it. It's the key is, it's an enter key. Who knows how to check an enter key? So here, console.log, key down, you just pass in an event. Normally the event has everything you need. So let's try it, right? Alright, reload. And let's try it. I'm just gonna delete everything here. Make it bigger. Okay. I type. That's the key. Okay. And I just press enter. That's the key. So what's the hint here? Key code is 13. Bam, it's done. So I basically say if event.keycode, right, is 13. This is just JavaScript. So then what do? Submit. Yeah? Okay, so what does submit mean? I'm not doing HTTP server anymore. Huh? What? Broadcast. Okay, good. So broadcast app dot, remember in the lab I give you this one. When I do this hello, you get it over here as well. You get this hello object as well. Hello, right? So that's what happened. I am going to call in here app dot messages dot, maybe I send a message here, right? So I am speaking to the channel directly. What if I have a thing called create? Makes sense. And what am I creating? Event dot target dot. There's one thing that when you do enter here, you guys didn't see, is this letter S here, right? I'm going to expand this guy and go down to target. You see target point to the correct guy, and in target, if it's an input, you have something called value. So you don't need jQuery, right? It's, come on, where is it? Value as. All right, value. So you sending this to value. Obviously, now you can test. You can test this. Dot create. Let's say first chat message. And what happened? It's not a function. Let's create it. This is error driven development. Yeah. Yeah. So where do you implement that method? App asset JavaScript channel messages. Again, by now you should be a little bit more familiar with right, with JavaScript. No, CoffeeScript. This is a create function. Take the first argument, and then after that it take a hash, an object. In JavaScript it's called an object, and these are the keys. Okay, so okay, I create this. I subscribe to messages channel, and I'm going to call something called create. Data here will pretty much means message body, right? Does it make sense? Message body, message content. You can call it anything, but that take an argument. So create take an argument, message content, and of course in JavaScript you call this dot perform, and then you know just the same as this is perform. You can. This is how you call a custom action. So I create, and maybe I call this body, yeah, no, content, message content. Is that okay? So when I have this now, look, let's do error development again. If I do this now, I have to reload this page, and I'm going to run this one more time. From the browser, I can call this function, right? Through the socket, it says unable to process messages create content. Okay, so how do we fix it? See, that's error development, right? Error driven. So go to channel, messages channel. We have to add a method called create, right? And what is in here? Content, first chat messages. So it's almost like params, right? Yeah. So you can call it data params, right? So in this case, what happened? Message dot what? Create. Content is params content. Sounds good? It's almost like params dot require permit content, right? Okay, it's like that. But what's next after you create? Broadcast. Oh, okay. So what do you want to broadcast? Remember we deleted the controller action. So I'm going to undo that. Take this broadcast and I bring here. Is that fair? This is called cheat-driven development. You undo and you know, undo development, right? Undo-driven development. So UDD. So I broadcast. What happens here? I'm just saying, hey, if I receive this, create a message, broadcast to all the client, append. Okay, append to messages. Sounds good. Except, how do I run this method? Now this is the beauty of Rails 5. Your code is, that's no problem. You run, this code is in Rails controller, but this code you can take it anywhere. This is only true for Rails 5, okay? So notice you call render, but this render is not part of this controller. It's just now it's a part of application control. It's just general method. So I move everything here to here. Aha. So that works. I move this here, so I should be able to broadcast something that's the whole HTML. Does it make sense? So I should be able to create, and then down here, I guess I don't need any of this, right? My messages controller is clean. I run it once, I forget about it. Down here, test is just, right? Test is there for me to you know, tự sướng, right? And say do app.messages.test. But here, create is now it's cool. Because now if you call this here, oh man, you're gonna have, let's see if it works, right? If you call this create here, true, okay, it still say unable to process. Why? Read something at the top. Be sure to restart your server when you modify this file. Right? You know why? Because this is a WebSocket server, and it's new, and it's not as smart as the Rails HTTP server. Right? Because like it's called reloading the code. Right? So I purposely show you that error. And so here, see, this is cool. It's connecting to all these guys to two sockets that are open. And now I call this one more time. Create, true. I look down here. Whoa, insert messages into database. So I don't need to show you guys by going to Rails console and then the last message is there, right? That's sweet. Now I need to display that over here. To display that over here, that's interesting. I've already broadcast. So should it work?
Maybe.
Why does it not work? I'm broadcasting. Alright, let's try. Let's try the whole thing. I say hello. I press enter. Key down. And I go to the log. Is there the word hello here? Hello. And looks like it's saved to the database, right? Because you see the ID. Where do you see the ID? Insert into returning ID. Yeah, it's there. But why is it not broadcasting? Huh? Did someone debug why? Broadcast. Alright, so received, because I think we changed something, right? So what happened? So we broadcast data.
Message.
Huh?
Message. You have to remove the.
Yes. That one?
Maybe.
Perfect. Alright, let's try this. We can try it over here. Second.
Oh.
I have to reload it. Alright, ready? I tried on the console. Second chart. Whoa, it's right there. Right? And of course here, third, that, and the other, this also show up. Fourth. Uh-oh.
You haven't refreshed.
I think this one I have to refresh so that the, okay, fourth. Okay, this works here and works there. Okay, so how do we quickly do delete? It's the same, right? Okay, where do you start? Go to messages partial. Link to here. Pretty much you don't need anything else. You just need a link. Sure, class is close. And here is that. Just that. And maybe this is href point to nothing. I don't need it to point anywhere, does it? Just that. Close. Right? That's cool. So it looks like that. Now, at the same time, if I click this link now, I have to bind it to something. All right, JavaScript. Where do we go? Messages JS here, and you need to bind something for that link.
No.
Now, how do we bind that?
No.
Huh?
Now. Now click event.
Click on click.
Yeah.
So if you bind that to this guy a.close, how can you get the ID of the message? Of course, you can pass the data in. You can have the ID, but there's also the ID in where? Make it bigger here. Up here. Yeah? How do I have that ID? I have this DOM ID message. DOM ID basically put message underscore ID, right? So I have this ID. So why don't I have something called dot message? This is a different way to use jQuery that's more flexible. I have this dot message guy, and I say when you click on where?
DOM ID.
A.close. So instead of binding, this is very useful because let's say if you add new elements, sometimes you know when you add a new element to the page, you didn't create a binding event for that element. It doesn't work. But if you bind body on click a class name, so that new element can be of that class name, it will still work. So up here you can still do something key down on this guy. So you see JavaScript here jQuery allow you to do many things. At first I could do this dot click, and then I have to find my parent, and then what's the ID of my parent, right? Why don't I do this? Okay, and let's see. Okay, if I click close, and now I pass in the third argument, which is a function in the event. Okay, so let's to make sure I know what it is. So event is okay. All right, so reload. If I click this guy, second chat messages, I click on that console. Do you guys see it? Oh wow, it's just submitting, huh? Oh, this event here, it's not doing anything. It's just this stupid slash is causing the problem. So we should do return false, right? Event prevent default. So then when you click on anything, it stay there. Okay, so it's a click event, and you have a target, same as before. Where's my target? It's a.close, right? But there is another thing called, so we have target. There's another thing called this. So I have this guy. I'm wrapping over jQuery, but let's say if I have this word, it's the guy that you doing the click on. So click here. I click on OK, passing this, right? Oh no, it's wrong. I was hoping to get this message. Who knows how to get the message? Huh? Of course you can do like this is this, and then you do parent, get the message, blah blah. Okay, the easiest way, I think the easiest way I'm gonna pass in the ID here. It's too complicated to try to do funny stuff. I was hoping you can pass, so you have event.current. I thought event.current target, and there here, see? You can still get this guy, but it's not clear. So let's make the code super clear. Data message ID is, I'm gonna pass in the message ID here, okay? Alright, who's with me on this one? It looks okay? And now here, I have the message ID, console.log. Message ID is, you can get this data message ID. That's jQuery, right? That looks okay. And prevent default, so it doesn't jump like crazy. It's to stop the chain. So if I click here, I know message ID is 38. Click here, that's 25. So how do I make this useful? App.messages.destroy. Maybe, yeah, let's go destroy. And then you pass in what? So then you pass in this guy, in this guy over here, right? Called message ID. And I'm going to destroy message ID. Does that seem fair? I basically destroy message ID. And how do I implement message ID destroy? So that's now JavaScript. I go back to my channel. First, JavaScript channel, right? Because I need to implement this over here. Destroy message ID, right? Perform, maybe destroy or delete. I don't know. It's up to you. ID, message ID. Okay. And then how do I go to app, channels, messages, channel? Down here, def, destroy, ID. You can call params, whatever you want. Message is message.find ID and message.destroy. And what? Undo development, driven development. So go back to this guy. Where's my destroy? Yeah, down here. Except my undo now. I already know my last mistake. I will go to this message and remove that. That seems fair. Of course, this object has been destroyed, but the instance still carry the object, so you can do this. It's good, right? So maybe if I redo this now, how do we debug this?
Reload server.
Are you sure? Yes. This down here? That's a channel site. That's a server WebSocket. We'll see. Alright, refresh. Press OK here. Alright. Still a problem. And click down here and say, you see the error? App dot. Who knows the error? App dot messages. Alright. So try one more time. Okay, still doesn't work. But now it's clean. Let's check the server. Cannot execute. What's happening? Could not find the message because I just already deleted that guy. Alright, so let's try again. Message ID 38. Could not find message with ID. Oh, you see it's passing action and ID, so I cannot do that. It's just like params. See here? It's params. The action is always in there. So params ID. Make sense? Okay. It's gonna work. Yay! We can move on, right? This chat all worked well. This guy didn't get refreshed, but now, right? I think we are happy. Right? Our chat tool skip HTTP controller, right? It's also WebSocket. So you know a little bit more about that. But where's the IP? How do we do the IP thing? Controller is good because you will get access to session. When you go to session, you get user ID, and then user.find session user ID. You get return the session, the user, right? So in last lecture, in this lab, I told you to ignore this guy. Channels down here. I told you to ignore the second guy. It's called connection. Okay. Also, if you look at this guy down here, the error just now. Let's look at the error I had. Right? Cannot execute command. So there's a command message sent to WebSocket. But you see this thing called identifier. It send like this channel What we're gonna do is called identified. So we're going to do this. Go to action preview and I find connection. You already see it, current user here. Alright, so it's similar to action, what's that, to application controller. So in this guy, you have access to session, but here's got, you have access to cookies, and you also have access to the request. Remember, we get the IP from request, so it's easy. We just need to use this method down here. It's a connection identifier, so they give you that. So I'm going to call this identified by, follow that, right? What do we have? Current IP. Okay? And when this guy is connect, you just override this method. Okay? Self.current IP is request.remote IP. Okay? Now I have that. So it means when I create this message, I can pass in IP is current IP. Yeah? That's it. That's how I create an IP. Let's see if that's correct. Notice all of this is empty at the front. Right? Hello? Now it passed the IP address back again. Cool. So I have current user is the same way. One more thing. This is annoying, right? When A submit, of course, you don't have it in B and C, but hello. So how do we remove that? You go to messages over here. After you submit up here, right? After you set event.target.value is, set it to nothing, right? So this now return back to nothing. So we're done with action cable. Okay, so we should commit everything, right? Don't use skip messages controller and use messages channel instead. Yay! Okay, yay is not good. It doesn't like the exclamation mark. Yay! Okay, well, there's one more problem. This is a new problem. Does anyone know? Can someone guess? Of course, I ask question that no one knows, so I can answer. Channel, messages channel. Okay, what happens here, guys? Action cable, broadcast, messages. When I have 1,000 users, is this one going to be fast? Well, like this browser is like, hey, send messages to everyone, and it's a lot of work. But this one is supposed to be a very fast message back and forth. WebSocket, HTTP request, right? You're like, hey, request, and then hey, response, and it should be fast, but it still can take a few seconds, and you okay, unless you're Google, right? Then you don't want to lose users, so you want it to be 100 milliseconds. But VN Express or other places, it's like 3 seconds to load the page. So that's okay. That's HTTP request. That's fine. WebSocket, if you make it that long, how can you open so many socket connection? That's just keep this as small as possible. And this server is not that powerful. It's the WebSocket server is more lightweight. Okay, so don't do this, right? I'm like, well, I just moved from my controller to my WebSocket. So where do I move it now? Where do I move it? Huh? Job. What is a job? So Rails, we haven't used it, but it's called background task, and it's called an active job, and you can see it here. It's really simple, right? An idea of job. So what is a job? A job is any task that takes some time to run. 1 second, 2 seconds. right? It will hurt your request, either HTTP or WebSocket. If you send an email, it may take 1 millisecond, but it may take 3 seconds because Google SMTP server may be slow. Some it's a different internet protocol, right? So when you do that, don't use when user create a new account. It's okay initially. You're like, oh, user create new account, user send notification. But in real life, you don't want to do that. It slow down when the user sign up. Sometimes users like, why is it so slow to sign up, right? What if the email server is down, right? It can happen. So you want it to be in the background job, so that even if it takes 3 seconds, who cares? That's one. Two, if it fails, it will try it again, which is amazing. If you send an email, if it fails, it will try again. That's the best thing. Same thing with sending messages to the clients, right? If this guy is trying to send to 1,000 guys, and and it just fail here. So let's isolate this, okay, into a job. And what's a job? It's all about object-oriented programming. So you create a job, and you just have one thing called a perform class, a perform method. So when you have this perform method, then you can call guest cleanup job. For example, this is if you have a website, a lot of guest user over time, and you're like, oh, these are not real users, right? Remove all the guest users every 30 days, or when every 1,000 user. So if I'm the 10,000 user on the website, and I trigger a job that say clean up, that set 2,000 users say clean up. So this is the background job. So what I do is you can say guest cleanup job dot perform. You can say dot perform now to run immediately, or you say perform later. So that's the API Rails give you, right? So that's just a job. It's quite simple. You can say perform later and pass in an argument, or you can say perform now, or you can say wait until when, right? That's pretty cool. And you can have so many jobs, but then it's like waiting for a taxi, right? But then you're like, oh, but I need to go first. Oh, go to the 7-seat taxi. It's more expensive, so that's a different queue. So here you have a standard queue default, but you can have an urgent queue. It's up to you. You can define which queue should run first. So when executing this, Rails provide an API, but it doesn't know how to execute the job. If you only use active job, it will just run it immediately. You say perform later, it's like, I don't know how to perform later. I'm just going to run. So how do you make it perform later? You use one of these backend. They call adapter. Just like Active Record is the adapter that know how to save your data to PostgreSQL, MySQL. So active job, right? Get something called adapter, and you can use Sidekiq or some other thing, rescue. So Sidekiq is the best in general. So you can just use that. What is Sidekiq? So Sidekiq is an adapter that connects to a Redis database. Familiar? Action Cable used Redis. Sidekiq used Redis to store all the jobs. And Sidekiq just look, hey, Redis, just look at this table. Are there any jobs for me to run? And if it runs, hey, do you fail? If you succeed, then done. If you fail, put back into the Redis, and then wait later. I'll try again 2 seconds from now. If it fails, I try again 4 seconds from now. If it fails, I try again 8 seconds, 16 seconds. So you wait longer and longer, but it's there, and then maybe after 10 tries, I stop, kill that. Now, using an extra database, obviously that helps because you don't want all this extra logic into your PostgreSQL database, and your PostgreSQL is not the best for this very fast key value store. Right? Redis is faster, it's better. Now, for also observing when the data changed, Redis pops up. That's why Action Cable used Redis, not PostgreSQL. Right? So same, that's cool. I have Redis already, so let's use Sidekiq. Okay, so that's cool. You can use Rescue also use Sidekiq, but no, I'm sorry. Yeah, Rescue also uses Redis, but it's not as good. So Sidekiq used concurrency. It can run many connections to the database and run your jobs many times faster. It can run more jobs. So just forget about this guy unless you work at a certain company that already use it, because they used it from a long time ago, which is fine. It's not bad. And there's this guy called Sucker Punch. It's like, hey, I'm lazy. I don't want another database. Okay? And that's what happens with local. And I'm just backgrounded. I don't need a database to store. Why don't you? Ruby thread is handling this. So if you sign up, you go to me. I create a user, and I'm going to send an email. But I need to get back to you right away. I don't want to say, hey, send email and then go back to you, right? We make this a background task. Instead of sending this background task to the database, I fork myself to a different thread. So this thread, hey, now you have this thread, run this guy. But my thread, I'm just using memory, right? My thread, okay, prepare the HTML version and go back to you. So I can do this concurrently. But this is not good in production because you have a lot of requests, processes, the connection, and this is not reliable. This may die. Like, hey, extra memory, I need to use for my thread. And then like the 10,000 Harleys also want to spawn another thread. Right? And that's bad. So Sucker Punch is only good for, it's good for concurrency, for simple purposes. So I love it for localhost. Okay? Action Cable also use similar thing for local. You see the cable.yaml file, right? Who remember the cable.yaml file? Action Cable say if you on production, if you on Puma can give you multiple threads, server threads. So if you on development or test, then don't use any extra database. But if you're on production, make sure you use a database to store all the messages. Okay, so we understand background jobs. How do we create one? I make sure that everything is new. I just say Rails generate job. And of course, Rails generator is one of the most beautiful thing. You just don't know what it is. Type that. Say, okay, job name. Okay, that's all I need to know. So what is my job called? Create message broadcast. Why not? It's very clear. Job. Yeah? Enter. And if you use RSpec, it will create an RSpec folder, an RSpec file. But if you use test, then it's that. So look at this file. Uh-oh. Job. So I make a mistake and I just go here and say destroy. And I'm back. And then I just say no more job. I just call that. Generate again. Alright, double check. This looks good. So let's go to that app. What? Jobs. Create message broadcast. That's it. So what is it in here? We need, notice in Ruby, this is called a splat operator. You can pass in as many arguments as you want. So go back to my channel. This guy, create, imagine, oh my god, spamming 1,000 messages. This is going to be bad. So I call this create message broadcast job dot perform later. And so pass in the argument. So what argument do I need to pass? Maybe I pass in action append, the same argument, right? I can do that. So I need to pass tell me what argument I need to pass, guys. The same guy, right? This guy? Sounds good? And then okay, that's done. It's just call that. But now you just put that in here. And what is the argument? Okay. If you don't do this, if you do this, then it will just pass an array of argument. If you do this, then it just remove the bracket, and then now you have these guys calling the same arguments. Cool. So if I have that and run Rails server, let's say Hey, where is that? This guy. All right, let's run it and say hello. Is it run, guys? Why is it not running? So do something later. I need to. I did restart the server, right? That's not good. It performed this from async. Okay. It's in this. Why? It doesn't send back to JavaScript, right? It's broadcasting. All right. So this is a little hard to debug. It calls in the background. Yes. What's your? It is actually perform. So perform now. It should still perform now, but I don't think they solve anything. But we just type. All right. Let's see. Adapter. We didn't specify any adapter. I don't know if it's good or not. Okay. Let's look at the adapter jobs. This is okay. This guy didn't specify any adapter, so maybe I'll search for this active job queue adapter. Queue adapter. No. What's the default? Built-in. The problem it could be a bug that it's really annoying. If I send a broadcast from my Rails console, for example, it doesn't work. So when I prepare, I was really confused. So you see, if I call, I should be able to call action cable dot server dot broadcast messages. Let's delete some guy, right? Let's delete channel messages here. See, broadcast, why not, right? You can remove this. If I can just copy this guy and paste. No, don't paste the new line. And maybe message equals message dot last. And then I call action server broadcast. If I do this, right, it broadcasts, but nothing is happening. So actually, I don't know why that is the case. Active job may have the same problem right now. And if you use Sidekiq or Sucker Punch, maybe I just add Sucker Punch and see if it happens. I want to show you. Okay, active job here. Put Sucker Punch in it. By the way, it's really easy to do Redis locally. You guys know, right? Install Redis is really easy, and you can run Redis server, and then you're all good with Sidekiq. But I use Sucker Punch, so come on. Okay, and I have Sucker Punch. I have to set the adapter, right, to be Sucker Punch here under config adapter Sucker Punch. Rails is quite tricky. Every version something new is happening. So there are a few guys under this initializer. Let me make sure there's nothing to do with jobs here. And config active job. Okay. It's under development, right? So let's put it here. You can put application environment is here, but if you deploy to production, you can overwrite a lot of app setting with development production, right? So let's say I put this down here. Adapter is Sucker Punch, so it should run, and I should restart. I just set this adapter. I have my job here, broadcast. I'm going to do rails.log dot info, right? Broadcasting, and I'm going to call args.inspect. I just debug this guy. Okay, I make sure I pass in the correct argument. Actually, yeah, that's the problem here. I think okay, so now here's the Rails server. Server log, when you run Rails, this is standard out. Sometimes you see most of what you see is very similar to what's in the log file. It's development log. But sometimes, not everything is printed out. So if you can tail this is another way to see everything. I need to make sure, okay, I have the log file. Ready? And where is my localhost? Oh, here, right? Let's refresh. I call now. Enter. Whoa! So the adapter wasn't set up, so this is cool. It works, right? You see did I call perform later? Oh, such a waste. I thought I was having a difficult bug, but it's not difficult, huh? So I perform now. Yeah, perform now is not good. So let's say perform later. I'll show you the difference. Let's do it one more time. Right? See you. Okay, see you. Works. All right. What if this job takes a long time to run? How can you fake that? App, job, create message. I'm going to sleep for 5 seconds. Okay, 3 seconds. Okay? All right. Sleeping. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's cool, huh? So that's sleep 3 seconds. Let's say, sometimes sending an email take that much time, right? And you definitely test that this is, that's the difference between perform now and perform later. And you can do the same thing for broadcast, remove. Keep your model, keep your things very simple like this, right? Don't try to make things super complicated. It's okay to have one task, one job. You know why? Later, when you don't use any job, just remove that. If you put so many jobs in one class, later you're like, oh, I removed this method used another method, and the two methods share one method, and you like, have more problem refactoring. So clear single responsibility principle. Yeah. So we just learned active. That's background jobs. Any question? Yeah, background job is cool with the perform method here. So it's a little advanced here. Okay, args, and you pass it here. A lot of time, let's say send an email notification job. You pass here. The argument is just email. Right? Don't just do args like that. This case is just because the argument is very complicated. Okay. And at first I thought Ruby is silly. Actually, the proper way of catching all the arguments is that args will catch all the non-hash argument, and this will catch all the hash keys and values. But that's for your advanced Ruby class. All right. So that's background processing. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go through database and mailers. But you should definitely read and ask me if you have any question. The stuff here is pretty good, and if it's useful for your project, I'm happy to do some add more notes to it. And I think in lab, I think I will update this lab to do something more. Again, this is Rails 4 stuff, so don't try it too early, please. Focus on your project now. When you come to lab, please come to lab, and I will try to make you practice some extra stuff here. Okay, let's get to the. Let's take a 3-minute break, and we get back to final projects.